What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse Evolved video. Alright, Shadowverse soldiers, we are going to be talking about Abysscraft today, because Abysscraft is definitely going to be on everybody's radar because it's got two very strong decks that came out this set. But the version of Abyss we're going to be talking about is the Lustful Aggro Abyss version of the deck, because they came out with a new 2-drop that's going to have Storm and gain many more abilities with a whole bunch of damage they're going to be doing throughout the game. So let's go ahead and figure out what the pros and cons are of Abyss Aggro here. Alright, so we have the pros and cons. So the pros, it is a very aggro deck. It has a lot of Sanguine bonus in comparison to the other Abyss aggro decks, and it has very good neutral options. Well, and then there's the cons of the deck. So there's not a lot of draw power in the deck. There's more self-damage since you can get more Sanguine bonus. And then there's like small followers, so you have the 1 cost, 2 cost, and then they don't have that much defense. But moving on outside of the pros and cons, let's talk about the premier legendary for this deck. So we have Valnarek. So she's a 2 cost. While Sanguine is active for you, this follower has Storm, and then Strike, deal X damage to each enemy leader. X equals the number of times your leader has lost defense this turn. If your leader's defense is 7, give this follower +2/+2. But do a reminder that the +2/+2 only happens on the Strike effect, but you have to pay attention to how many times you're dealing your leader damage. So, you know, if you deal it 1, deal it 2, then you're going to be dealing 2 damage to their face, and then if your leader's at 7 defense, you'll be swinging with a 4/4 that can swing the very same turn she's played. Alright, so we already have a good gander of the cards that came out in set 1s through 4 that are able to hurt ourselves with the Sanguine bonus, so let's go ahead and look at the new cards. Okay, so here are all the new Sanguine cards. We have Embracing Wings, Disciple of Lust, Wings of Lust, and Servant of Lust. I can see why it's called Lust Aggro. But looking at Embracing Wings here, for 3, we can select the enemy follower on the field and destroy it. Deal 2 damage to your leader, and then select up to 1 Valnarek Omen of Lust in your cemetery and add it to your hand. So it's nice that we're going to have a spell card that just straight up removes things in aggro. That's pretty nice for a 3-cost spell. Then we have Disciple of Lust. She's a 1-cost 1/1. You'll deal 1 damage to your leader when she's played, and then she has a strike ability to deal 1 damage to each leader when she swings. So she's kind of like an Ambling Wraith, but you know, just being able to deal 1 damage to your leader being played too, and then when she swings, if there's any way to give her some sort of rush or something like that, you can also deal 1 damage to your leader again, so you can fuel up your Valnarek burn damage. And then we have Wings of Lust. So there's multiple abilities on this, but you could choose up to 2 of the following. You can either 1, select a follower on your field and give it rush, deal 1 damage to your leader, or 2, select an enemy follower in the field, deal 2 damage to it, and then deal 1 damage to your leader, or 3, deal 1 damage to your leader, and then draw a card and then discard a card. So just like I said with Disciple of Lust, so this is probably another card you're going to be pairing very well to just get as much damage as you can through the Valnarek. And then you have multiple abilities to choose from, so that's option 1, is just to give a follower rush. And then dealing 2 damage to a follower for 1 is not as bad as 2, because you can also deal 1 damage to yourself and get Sanguine active. Or if your hand size isn't too well and you need to go ahead and filter through your deck, you can draw a card and then discard a card. Alright, and then we have Servant of Lust. So he's a 2-cost 3/1. The stats are pretty okay, it's just he has 1 defense. And that's what we were talking about in the cons, that he has 1 defense, and you know, these followers are not very strong, but they do have some pretty good abilities. Alright, so here are our helpful healing options. So we have Demonium Punk Devil, we have Moriana, and then we have Apostle of Lust. So Demonium Punk Devil is always going to be a good option going forward with Abysscraft. Unless they release a better card, I feel like it's just going to be a staple. And then we have Moriana, which isn't really seen too often. This is actually going to be a good card going forward with the next card we're going to talk about, because as long as Sanguine's active for you, you're going to be healing 3 and then you'll draw a card. And then we have Apostle of Lust, so you engage them to give your leader -1 defense, and you select a follower that costs 2 play points to less in your cemetery and put it onto your field. And whenever another demon follower is put onto your field, give your leader +1 defense. So if you're paying attention into the traits below for the last couple of cards we've been showing, they were all demon class cards, and Moriana and Demonium Punk Devil are both demon cards, so you can get Punk Devil out from your cemetery for Apostle of Lust, and you can get the legendary Valnarek out of your cemetery too, and you'll be healing for every follower that you play that's a demon. But I just have to reiterate on the fact that the Moriana and Apostle of Lust is pretty, you know, tempo. Like, if you play Apostle, he survives, and you play Moriana the next turn, you're able to engage him to play something. It's going to be absolutely amazing on the heal that you're going to get. Alright, and we have a review for the mid and late game Storm options. So we have Alucard, Dark General, Howling Demon, and Cerberus. Alucard is still a pretty good card to be using in the late game, especially since you don't draw that much. This is a very good card to close games out sometimes, because, sometimes they get to a really weird point of staying at either 5, 7, or 6. Well, Alucard does fix that, and he also gets rid of a follower that has 4 less defense, and then he also heals you so you can stay in the game even longer. Alright, so Dark General is still a good option in my opinion, because there's going to be a lot of Sanguine happening with this deck. Just playing this card out and having Sanguine active is very scary. You just need to pay attention to how many play points your opponent has when you do play this card. Alright, and then we're going to be talking about Howling Demon. So this card is very good. Just on the very evolved side, you're going to be swinging for 7 with Storm, and then if Sanguine's active for you, you're going to heal 5. So you're swinging for 7 and healing, and then with the card that we're going to talk about next, I think that pairs up nicely with this card too. Yeah, and that card is Cerberus. So this has been an Abyss staple in my opinion for a very long time. If you don't at least have 1 or 2 of this in your Abyss deck, then I really don't know what you're doing, because this card has just been good since it came out. So you get 2 damage on a follower, and then you have Coco to buff up one of your followers' damage. So, Alucard turns into a 9 attack if you have everything active. General's a 7, Howling Demon's a 9. They'll just be swinging for a whole lot, and especially with Storm options, they won't see it coming. Alright, so here are some honorable mention cards that I want to go ahead and talk about. So we have Hamelin. If we're going to be using Cerberus in our deck, I feel like this card is just going to be very good, just because you can put a Coco into your EX area, and if you evolve Cerberus and then do Hamelin in the same turn, if she's able to stick on the field, which is not a very typical scenario, but you are going to have Storm in your deck. So putting an extra Coco into the EX area to go ahead and use 2 of them and then swing for a whole lot of damage on one turn is going to be very clutch up in a match. This one's not more of a hot take era card, but it's just, something that'll definitely work out in the deck. I think Dire Bond is just very good too. Very forgotten card sometimes because it came out so long ago. But you just deal 1 damage to yourself and then draw a card. And then the harder part of this card is that it is an amulet and you have to spend 2 to engage it and then put it into your cemetery to deal another damage and then draw a card. So it's kind of like an expensive play for the secondary part of it. But when you get into those late game, big plays, setting up your turns is going to be very nice. Alright, so here are the neutral helper cards. So we have Goblin Princess. This has always been a card since it came out. In set 4, you can just go ahead and get the 1-cost neutral, that being just a goblin to put onto your field. But we really need her for her evolve to go ahead and get that Goblin King out. He's a 4-cost 6/6 with ward, so that's a lot of damage if your opponent cannot answer that card, putting some Cocos up there. And then, doing Heimlin. Once you make those big plays like that, it's just going to be hard for your opponent to deal with. Alright, and then we have the new card Fina. So when she's played, she's a 2-cost. You choose one of the following. You can look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You may reveal a 1-cost play point from among them and add it to your hand. You put the remaining cards amount of your deck in any order, or you can select an enemy follower that costs 1 play point on the field and destroy it. Definitely good options for both, so depending on what's in your hand or what's going on in the situation, if you feel like your opponent's going to really be pinging you down with 1 cost, or they're going to be moving a little bit faster than you, you can use this card to just go ahead and remove followers, or you can go ahead and set up your turn, finding another 1-cost, either an Apostle Luth, Anviling Wraith, or a Skeleton Fighter, things, so just 1-cost followers we can put into our hand and go ahead and getting some advantage against our opponent. Alright, so I wouldn't really consider these tech options since we're playing aggro, because a lot of things in aggro can go very differently because we don't have a good game plan and drawing. But here are some options that might help you in some other matchups potentially. Alright, so looking at the first card, we have Soul Dealer. So his front ability is kind of lackluster, especially, you get the Sanguine active. That's a lot of damage we're going to be dealing to ourselves. But the evolved version is just so much better since you're going to be choosing a follower to be healing it, and then you have to remember if you have Apostle of Lust on the field, he is also a demon follower, so you're going to be healing for when he's played as well. And then there's Demonic Strike. So I know there's probably going to be some opinions on using this card because this card, it does cost 3 and we're going to be wanting to do as much as we can on our turn with our play points. But if your opponent doesn't play anything on a turn, it does not feel bad to just Demonic Strike on a turn and just wait to see what your opponent does sometimes, because, always being on the gas pedal is nice, but, once we're a speed demon and we run out of options, what are we going to do then? Well, Demonic Strike is just a good card to just, go ahead and slide into a slot, maybe 1 or 2, get some extra damage in, and then, keep playing from then on. Alright, so let's talk about Ronai for a second. So if we're going to be playing an aggressive deck, making it very harder for our opponents to remove our cards is just absolutely amazing. Because we have a card that's just essentially making them have taxes, adding 1 to the cost, making them spend more things on their turn to get rid of our cards. It's just absolutely amazing. Then we have an evolve. When they're using those cards to try and get rid of a follower, we could just go ahead and snipe a potential option out of their hand, and it's very good. It's just having a card that has taxes while we're also just taxing their life is just absolutely amazing. Alright, so this last card we're going to be talking about is Venom Fang Medusa. Now this is not a super practical option, but just spawning a follower that has Bane and just going ahead swinging into a ward follower that potentially has Bane or just, you know, has a bigger cost in what we want to give in terms of followers. It's just nice. Even though he does have to be stale and able to swing and everything, I think it's still a good option to be thinking about. Alright, so before we get into the grade of the deck, let's go ahead and peek a little deck list that I made for Abyss Aggro. Alright, so here's a sample deck list right here. This is definitely like maybe a default, you know, definitely change some more endgame-ier options that I would think of. This is just something I feel like in my mind it would really work out. Just how aggro I've seen, you know, Abyss aggro play, and just with the lustful things how it would really work. You know, most of the cards here are going to work with Apostle of Lust since most of them are demon followers, if not other followers. And then most of the followers that we are going to be playing are going to get a huge buff with these Sanguine effects like Skeleton Fighter, you know, Soul Dealer, you know, Howling Demon, just a whole bunch of things that are going to be doing well with Sanguine active. I added in 2 Roll 9 because I feel like this card is going to be very good in aggro because it's going to stop your opponent from using spells to get rid of your followers. They're going to have to trade in and do some damage to them, where we can use our Wings of Lust to either ping them for 2 or their Embracing Wings to go ahead and remove them. Just lots of options we can choose from. But yeah, here's the full list right here. If you guys want to go ahead and pause and take a look at it, this is everything that I had in mind. But for sure, this is just a good starting point. If you need to change things around, you know, play the deck, see how it feels, and, you know, rock with it from there. Alright, so getting back into the grade of things, we learned a lot about Lust aggro today. We have Valnorek, that's a 2-cost follower. If Sanguine's active for you, she has Storm. If you have 7 lifts defense, then she becomes a 4/4, and her strike ability for how many times you dealt damage to yourself this turn is pretty nice as well. We have Apostle of Lust that makes a whole bunch of our demon followers that we learned. Hopefully, we learned that there were more demon followers than we thought there were before to go ahead and play them. I definitely, when I saw that Moriana was a demon follower, I'm like, okay, so that card really goes together nicely because you subtract 1 to play demon follower, heal 1, and then you play Moriana, and then you heal for like 4, and then draw a card, which is also nice as well. Alright, in terms of grade of aggro Lust, I would definitely give it a big old A. It definitely has some very good options. Some good, you know, burn to heal ratio options are very nice. Learning that a whole bunch of the demon followers doing what they did is just very strong. Just Valnorek being Storm coming out and, you know, using an ability to deal damage to yourself, and her strike ability just adding up to some good burn damage is nice as well. I think there's just lots of good options in this deck. Well, alrighty guys, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. You don't know how much it means to me that you're still here. I love you guys. Make sure you're safe whatever you do tonight, and safe whatever you do for the rest of the year. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.